strategy to offset some of the events or a repetition of the events that have taken place here in Los Angeles recently. We have to go to the root. We have to go to the cause. Dealing with the condition itself is not enough.
Dear Mr. Massa, I'm just trying to mind my own business. What's the matter? It's just another day, another black king captured. I'm about to lose my brain, stuck inside this ghetto rapture. I got a lot of smoke. If you want it, you can have it. They want a hat trick, but this is black girl magic. Ain't talking about the kind that'll make you disappear, but I'm talking about the power of the melanin within. Ain't looking for trouble, but I'ma say this one time. I put two dukes up if you try to touch mine. We still want justice for Tamir and Trayvon. You say you don't see color, but racism ain't blind. They targeting little kids whose skin look just like mine. So I'm paranoid, it's a war zone outside. And I'm a black queen, so if you ask me to step out of my car, you gon' have to snatch me. Cause I ain't going no damn well. Had to spend my whole life living unfair. Ancestors got my back and they right here. You can never understand, it's a nightmare. Living in my black shoes by the black rules. You can keep your handshake, I don't dap coon. The white man to go nuts if he cash you. But you all on his side like a damn fool. Make it make sense.
We are oppressed.
Queen.
We are exploited. We are downtrodden.
Make it make
Queen.
We are
sense.
denied not only civil rights, but even human rights.
Amadeus.
So the only way we're going to get some of this
Amadeus.
oppression and exploitation
Queen.
away from us or aside from us is come together
Queen.
against the common enemy. Who taught you to hate the texture of your
Amadeus.
hair? Who taught you to hate the color of your skin?
Amadeus.
Parents, pay attention to the books, the school system, even to your little children. Lies mixed with wisdom. His skin too bright, so he was blind to the prison. My skin just right, so I collide with division. You trying to pray to God, but we tired of religion. No savior saving, we got to save our savings. We used to pay miss, how we gon' make the slave rich? But who's to blame, and tell me why you complaining? We need a team effort just to rule the nation. Like a bad relationship, missing communication. We missing moderation. They're trying to get a poison to my population. No reparations. I'm getting tired of Satan.
We are oppressed.
I'm
Queen.
getting tired of waiting.
We are downtrodden.
Queen.
We are denied not only civil rights, but even human rights.
Amadeus.
So the only way we're going to get some of this
Amadeus.
oppression and exploitation.
Queen.
All right. Hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning back in once again to the original Queen QueenAShakur show. I'm your host, Queen QueenAShakur, and this is your Sunday Vitamins. So as you're coming in, please feel free to go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Be sure to click that notification bell and click the word all so you're notified each time the Queen Goddess goes live. Okay, so hello, just anticipate, Pearly, G from the land, Queen Koyoi. I don't know how to say that, but I'll just call you Queen Q. Okay, peaceful living. Let's get into it. Everybody hit that like button. Paul Parody is here. Okay, Trisha, Emperor Rex, hey beloved. All right, so shout out to all of my loyal royals, everyone tuned into the Queen. I see you, Deronda and Claudette. And a big shout out to my moderators because y'all know they put in work. Okay, so with that all being said, Deepco is here. All right, Sean is here. So shout out to everyone tuning into the Queen. Let's get ready to get into it. I see you, we the people. Now, we have a lot to cover because I want to go over some of the regular news that I was going to give you all yesterday, but I didn't want the live to be so long. We're going to get into some of that first. Then we're going to get into the Epstein files. Okay, it's pronounced Koya. Okay, thank you, beloved. All right, Queen Koya. I love it. Okay. So with that all being said, Measured Man says I sound a little hoarse. Yes, I am. I absolutely am. Okay, so with that all being said, listen, we have a lot to cover because I want to do the Black History moment at the end. I want to give you your lifelines, and then we're going to talk about the files. And like I said, we need to talk about the regular news so we can find out what's going on with ICE here. Okay, so let's go ahead and get it started. Before we do, let's have a brief word from my sponsor. Everybody be sure to hit that like button, like, share, and subscribe. And also, please double check after the live to make sure that you're still subscribed, okay? Because you know they love to unsubscribe people, and they usually do it after the broadcast. And if you have not been receiving notifications, that could be why. Okay, so let's get into it.
Do not buy 12 Tribes on Earth hair growth oil and hair magic elixir unless you want super healthy, gorgeous hair that grows. They have a whole line of amazing hair growth products, including hair growth leave-in conditioner spray, hair growth shampoo, hair growth spray, and hair growth butter. I'm starting to sense a theme here. They include quality natural ingredients. They smell amazing, and you can see the results for yourself. So if you're looking for healthy hair growth for your natural or relaxed hair, try 12 Tribes on Earth today.
Okay, so don't forget you can purchase 12 Tribes Hair Oil at Etsy.com. Just look for Lisa Crafts. You can also find it at Walmart.com. And don't forget that she sells beard oil as well. Okay, so with that all being said, let's get ready to get into it. And let me say this. In these Epstein files, there is so much demonic and satanic stuff. It is very low vibrational. And it's almost like you're under spiritual attack. The more you go through these files and the more you absorb this information. So I would advise everyone who's listening to these broadcasts to just just make sure you're staying prayed up and all of that. And those of you who follow the spiritual channel, you already know about this type of thing. But at the end of the day, I fasted all day yesterday. I fasted and prayed yesterday because this stuff is really a whole lot and it's getting worse. Okay. It is like the stuff is just it's almost like you can feel this powerful, malevolent energy. This is very demonic. These people are not we're not dealing with humans here. And then someone said in a video, they said, these people are humans. And some of you all don't want to think that humans could be so, basically nefarious. They use a different word. But here's the thing. They absolutely are humans. But as I told you all before, they may have started off as humans, but they have allowed these malevolent entities to enter them so much. They have done these satanic rituals where they allow these things, they summon these things, and these things enter into them, taking over. This is how they're allowed, or this is how they're able to drink blood and engage in cannibalism. Okay, now I told you all these things are Nephilim and reptilians. And I also told you all a while ago, probably some years ago, about David Icke and the reptilian agenda. And so with that all being said, they mention reptilians in these files. But I also told you all days ago that what they're hiding in the files is the fact that these people are also, some of them are Nephilim, the fallen angels in the book of Enoch, the fact that they have preferred to consume the black children and that they did them absolutely the worst. The same things they did to them in slavery and then some. But not only that, they're also hiding the fact in the files that they have not released, the 50 terabytes that were missing. In those files, that is where I'm sure we're going to find, because I saw this in my dream last night. That's where you're going to find the people who were actually at the hunting parties that I told you about. That's where you're going to find the people who are actively participating. There's pictures of these people. I see it in my mind's eye. I literally can see these people. The people that were at those hunting parties, the people that were at these orgies, the people that were doing the rituals, they put on these masks, they used crossbows and arrows, they tied these children to trees. All of this is in these files. I literally saw it and I can still see it. Now I can't unsee it. Okay, so this stuff is very, very taxing spiritually, but we're going to get into all of that. Let's talk about right now some of the regular news. Okay, so hold on just a second. Okay, there's a video I want you all to see from some days ago with Cory Booker getting into it with Cash Patel. So I'm going to share my screen Okay, so we can check this out because Cory Booker was telling him this is like from 4 days ago, and Booker was telling Cash Patel basically that Donald Trump is not going to look out for you. Okay, like basically, he's a fool to be sitting here covering for this man because when it all goes down, Trump's only going to look out for himself. But at the end of the day, they're all going to go down eventually. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen.
Long. I think this might be your last oversight hearing, because as much as you supplicate yourself to the will of Donald Trump and not the Constitution of the United States of America, Donald Trump has shown us in his first term and in this term, he is not loyal to people like you. He will cut you loose.
It's my time, not yours.
My God.
If you want to talk about
dividing this country,
it is
I
my
follow
time.
you on your social media posts that tear this country apart.
FBI Director Kash Patel, who promised under oath to protect FBI employees from political retribution, just spent an entire hearing refusing to answer whether he coordinated with the White House to fire those very same employees before he was even confirmed. Senator Cory Booker, who has personally worked alongside FBI agents in Newark, came to this hearing with documented evidence, specific names, and zero patience for evasion. And what unfolded was one of the most brutal takedowns of a sitting FBI director this committee has ever seen. Let's watch the hearing, and I will give you my take later, as always.
I asked you whether you had any knowledge or discussions about removing FBI officials and installing political personnel before you were confirmed to that position. And I wonder, did you then understand or have conversations with the White House about the intentions to do so?
Before I was confirmed,
Yes, sir.
did I have discussions with the White House to remove FBI personnel?
Yes.
No.
So you're saying that you had no discussions with the White House before you were in the position about the removal of any personnel from the agency?
As I was preparing for my confirmation hearing, I had numerous discussions involving the type of people that would be employed, and that those that were failing to meet the mark at the FBI would no longer be employed if I were
And I'm assuming
confirmed.
that mark had to do with loyalty to the Trump administration.
No, you're wrong.
Okay. I'd like to revisit another subject from that hearing. Did you testify, excuse me, you did testify before the grand jury that President Trump had declassified the documents at issue in the Mar-a-Lago classified documents case. Is that correct?
I don't have the grand jury transcript. That's why I released it. Whatever it says is the best evidence.
That's what you said to Senator Whitehouse, that your grand jury testimony was publicly released. It has not been. In fact, in July, a court denied a news outlet's bid to get that transcript. But the court said quite clearly that you are free to discuss your grand jury testimony. So I ask you again, did you testify before the grand jury that President Trump declassified the documents at issue in the Mar-a-Lago classified document case?
And that is why I took your invitation to work with the department and the court to have that transcript released. And the transcript is the best evidence of what I said then.
So you're saying right now this committee can have access to what you said before the grand jury?
To whatever was released. Under my understanding, Senator,
So
that the Department of
hold on.
Justice
You and I both
released.
understand the law. Let me finish.
Okay, I want you all to pay attention because what he's doing here is he's playing games with semantics. Okay, the questions are simple. He's trying to feign stupidity, which is one of the things people do when they're lying. Okay, and then keeps repeating what Cory Booker is saying, and then talking about it's released. Okay, he just told you that it has not been released, and if it had been released, then that means that you can say whatever was in there. So why don't you just repeat it, or why don't you just answer the man's questions?
I understand under Rule 6 of the Federal Rules of Procedure, a grand jury witness, in this case you, is not barred from sharing their grand jury testimony. This is an oversight hearing. This is germane to your integrity and credibility. You know right now whether or not you testified that President Trump declassified the documents at issue in the Mar-a-Lago classified documents case. Why are you refusing to answer that simple yes or no question right now.
Because the premise of your question is inaccurate, and
There is no premise to my question, but trying to get to an order of what is truth or not.
How do you
Did
know?
you or did you?
How do you know what was asked in the grand jury if you weren't there?
Mr. Purcell, this is a mockery you're making of this hearing and simple questions.
It's a
So let
simple
me move on.
question. If you have
Mr.
a
Patel,
transcript,
during
you can
your
read the question,
nomination
but you don't have
hearing,
it.
you promised that, quote, all FBI employees will be protected against political retribution. When I asked you, are you aware of any plans or discussions to punish in any way, including termination, FBI agents or personnel associated with the Trump administration, you explicitly said under oath that you were not aware of any plans to punish FBI agents associated with criminal investigations of Donald Trump. I don't believe you were truthful. Firing FBI employees based solely on the cases that they are investigating, their case assignments, is illegal, and you know that. A new lawsuit that's been discussed numerous times, filed by 3 FBI officials, alleges that you carried out Donald Trump's campaign of retribution, in quotes, against FBI employees for, quote, failure to demonstrate sufficient political loyalty. One of those plaintiffs has been discussed today, Brian Driscoll. Now, we know 20 years of distinguished service to the FBI before you terminated him. Special agent in charge of FBI's Newark field office, where he operated with distinction. Medal of Valor winner, Shield of Bravery awards. He's a patriot. You terminated Driscoll via a letter dated October 8th, 2025. And in that letter, you said that you were firing him pursuant to Article 2 of the Constitution. Well, you're not the president of the United States. And so I'm wondering under what authority you were allowed to terminate him.
That matter is under litigation, and I'm not able to discuss it.
Okay, well, discuss this. Did you have discussions with Stephen Miller about firing this particular person or about his continuance in the FBI?
Not that I recall.
How often do you speak to Stephen Miller?
Frequently on our Homeland Security task forces.
You frequently discuss with Stephen Miller about subjects other than Homeland Security task force issues, correct?
I frequently talk to Mr. Miller about Homeland Security task forces.
Has Stephen Miller ever given you his opinions on how to run your agency?
Mr. Miller's interagency operations are invaluable to the FBI. That's what we talk about.
So you frequently discuss your job and your responsibilities with Stephen Miller and Pam Bondi, I imagine, as well.
Absolutely. She's the Attorney General.
Understood. Okay. Donald Trump promised to make us all safer. You have pushed out senior FBI agents with decades of knowledge and experience. In fact, this is the first time in FBI history that neither the director nor the deputy director have any experience with the FBI. You've shifted the agency's priorities primarily to pursuing Donald Trump's immigration enforcement agenda. According to ICE data, the Cato Institute, which is a conservative think tank, found that 20% of all agents have been diverted from their work to assist ICE immigration enforcement. 20%. Part of this operation is the work of mass law enforcement who jump out of cars, snatch people off streets at churches, schools, and their jobs and hospitals. Have there been any FBI agents who investigate crimes against children that have been assigned to immigration enforcement, yes or no?
The premise of what you say is entirely
Have there been
false.
any FBI agents who investigate foreign domestic terrorism?
You don't get to say the America is not safer under this leadership.
I am not saying
America
that.
is
You're
safer because of the work of the FBI.
You're making a presumption of premise.
4,700 children.
Sir,
we have seen 6,000 weapons and 23,000 violent felons have been
FBI
arrested.
agents who investigate human trafficking have been reassigned to immigration enforcement. You are not denying that FBI agents who are on the task force that fight against Russian oligarchs have not been reassigned. Public Correction Squad reassigned. People who defend us, defend children reassigned. You're not denying that. I've seen you time and time again attack my colleagues' premises of questions as a way to not answer the question. So let me end with this. I believe you have made our country weaker and less safe. I believe that we are more vulnerable to a major event, and I pray to God it doesn't happen. You've gutted the Bureau of Institutional Knowledge and Expertise. You fired or pushed out seasoned FBI officials, many with more than 20 years of experience, and were working on cases that were critical. You've been purging thousands of serious law enforcement officials who spent their careers keeping us safe, only to lower hiring standards in order to find anyone to replace them. And shockingly, you admitted in this hearing to Senator Coons that it would take 14 years to fill the vacancies at your agency. Many are the result of your purge. 20% of FBI agents are doing low-level immigration enforcement instead of their mission-critical work. You've disbanded entire task forces that stop election interference, foreign influence, public corruption. And who benefits from this? Well, corrupt people benefit from it. Criminals benefit from it. Vladimir Putin benefits from it. And it really makes me wonder who you're looking out for. It makes me think we can't trust you as a nation. You swear to release the Epstein files, but now you're withholding the Epstein files. You claim that you have a suspect in a serious assassination. Whoops, then you don't have a suspect. You know nothing about plans to remove FBI agents, yet you're directly involved in those plans. In the words of an ex-FBI official, you are overseeing, and I quote, generational destruction of the nation's premier law enforcement agency. Mr. Patel, in just 8 months, you have assaulted the institutional integrity of the FBI. But I know FBI field agents. I've worked with them in Newark. No matter how truly bad you are, you can't undermine the legacy of agents who fight every day to keep us safe, but you can tarnish the integrity of the agency and undermine the agency's capacity. I believe you're failing as a leader, and that your failure does have serious implications for the safety and security of Americans and our families. We're more vulnerable to domestic and foreign attack because of your failures of leadership. I don't think you're fit to hand the bureau, but here's the thing, Mr. Patel. I think you're not going to be around long. I think this might be your last oversight hearing. Because as much as you supplicate yourself to the will of Donald Trump and not the Constitution of the United States of America, Donald Trump has shown us in his first term and in this term, he is not loyal to people like you. He will cut you loose. This may be the last time I have a hearing with you because I don't think you're long for your job. But I'm going to tell you this. I pray for you. I pray for you that you can step up and defend your oath, defend the Constitution, and do a much better job of defending this country. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Do you want to say anything?
Yes, sir. That rant of false information does not bring this country together. If you want to work on bringing this country, it's my time, not yours.
My God.
If you want to talk about
dividing this country,
it is
I
my
follow
time.
you on your social media posts that
It is
tear
my
this country
time
apart.
to address your falsehoods.
Oh,
You are an
you can try
embarrassment
all
to the
you
division
want
in this
to
country.
not take
It is my
responsibility
time.
for what
You
you
had
have
your
said.
time.
Sir, you're
Your
making a
time is
mockery of this
over.
committee. Sir, you don't tell me my time is over.
You
The
know how
people
far
of New
we've
Jersey
come
tell me
since
what my
you
time
tell-
is. You can't lecture me.
You can tell me
Sir,
my time's over?
You may be the charge of
I'm
the
not
FBI,
going anywhere.
but I am not afraid of you. Sir.
Mr. Chairman,
Not afraid of you.
Mr. Chairman, point.
What just happened?
Ooh, that was epic. Okay. And Patel is such a liar who lies. All right. Booker didn't tell any lies. Mystery says conspiracy theorists are being vindicated. Love you. And I love you right, Black beloved. Thank you for your kind words and your contribution to the channel. I appreciate you. Peace, love, and blessings. Yes, conspiracy theorists are being vindicated. Okay. And who was the biggest conspiracy theorist of all? Me in 2020, when I told you all the same things that we're now finding out, because this all started with Hillary's emails. And also, let me say this, the people who start with that letter, y'all know who I'm talking about, okay, that starts with the letter Q, those folks, they were right too. The only thing they had wrong is they thought it was only the Democrats. And the reason everybody only thought it was the Democrats is because we had Hillary's emails. That's it. We had Hillary's emails, and Hillary's a Democrat, so who was she talking to in her emails exchanges back and forth? For the most part, she was talking to other Democrats. So that's what happened with that. But now that we have the Epstein files and we're seeing all these emails, now we know that they were all in on it. They were all in on it. Okay, all realms of government. Measurement says, are you kidding? The Dow is at 50,000. Exactly, Pam Bondi. Thank you for your contribution to the channel, beloved. I appreciate you. Peace, love, and blessings. Now, with that all being said, let's continue, because what I want to know is why in the hell ICE is seizing people's phones and documents. Okay, even if the people don't have charges and they don't need warrants to do so according to them. That's what I'd like to know. So let's get into it. After the federal agents took the shackles off Gus Johnson's ankles to release him from the detainment, that he asked, and then he asked for his phone back. Now that would be staying at the Bishop Henry Whipple Federal Building. Okay, this is what the agent told him when he said, "Can I just have back my phone?" The agent told him, "Oh, that's going to be staying at the Bishop Henry Whipple Federal Building," as part of their investigation into him assaulting a federal agent. But he says that he didn't assault an officer. I got assaulted by 3 officers. But see, this is what ICE does. They go out here and do things and then lie and say that people did things to them. Okay, we've seen them do this in the case of Nicole Renee Good. We've seen them do it in the case of Alex Pretty. And now the truth has come out about both instances. And now they've come out, the White House that is, and basically said that their ICE agents lied. Okay, they had to pretty much wash their hands of it because they see how they were looking like fools, which they still look like fools. Don't get me wrong. But that's likely one of the main times that they felt that they looked like fools. All of the other times that they're looking like fools, they think they look smart and think we're the idiots. Okay, but let's continue. Now, the 76-year-old Marine Corps combat veteran and mostly retired nurse was still bleeding from his elbow and missing a hearing aid from being tackled by federal agents earlier in the day. Please tell me why a 76-year-old vet would ever attack multiple ICE agents. Does that even sound believable? Does that even make any sense? Okay, doesn't make any sense at all. All right, none whatsoever, but let's continue. So then goes on to say he had gone to the scene where federal agents had killed a second person and nearly as many weeks in South Minneapolis, and that was Alex Pretty, an ICU nurse at the Minneapolis VA Medical Center where Johnson receives health care, though he didn't know that at the time. Now, he could have been a janitor from Timbuktu. It makes no difference, Johnson said. I was extremely angry, and I wanted to let them know that I was angry. Johnson started shouting at one of the agents lined up blocking the street, and he was about 5 feet away. And the agent sprayed him in the face. Okay, sprayed this elderly man just because he was yelling. Johnson concedes he concedes that he probably should have walked away at that point, but he turned around and started yelling again, getting sprayed 2 more times. His son was also sprayed in the face. Johnson was then tackled to the ground by at least 3 agents, handcuffed and taken into a van with other demonstrators to Whipple. They're kidnapping people, because why are you taking people to jail at the end or detaining them at all when these people are not being violent and they do have a right to exercise their First Amendment right? Okay. Now, a brutalist white office building at Fort Snelling that's been serving as headquarters of Operation Metro Surge since December, when President Trump began sending immigration agents to the state by the hundreds. So Johnson was released around 10 hours later. He walked out the front door into the night and made his way across the street, unsure how he was going to get home. He was greeted by a group of volunteers who ushered him to a warm car with hot coffee and cocoa. They gave him a cheap cell phone to call his family and then drove him the 6 miles home. The volunteers were with a group called Haven Watch, which formed to help the steady stream of detainees coming out of Whipple. Now, federal agents aren't just seizing phones, they're holding on to people's driver's licenses, their cash, and their keys. So they're stealing these people's belongings. These are nothing but thugs. Immigrant detainees are regularly released without their work permits and other documents. This is what the attorneys for these people are saying. Now, even though federal judges have ruled they were illegally arrested in the first place, but they're still keeping these people's items. They're just stealing people's documents as another form of cruelty. This is what Jennifer Scarborough, an immigration attorney based in Minnesota, said. I told you all weeks ago. Do you all remember? I told you all at least a month ago they were stealing people's belongings. Remember I showed you the video of the ICE agent who detained this man, and then while the man was there, he took the things out of the man's pockets and placed them on top of the vehicle. Do you all remember that? And he started putting the things in his own pocket, including the man's cash. Okay, do y'all remember that? And I said, what the hell's he doing? He's stealing that man's things. He wasn't putting that somewhere to be taken in his evidence. And then let's not forget, there was a 16-year-old migrant young man who was also detained by them, he and his father, and then he couldn't find his phone, or they never gave him back his phone. And then when he tracked it on Find My Phone, it was at one of those places in one of those vending like machines where where you can sell the phones. So they sold his darn phone, and that's what these devils are doing. Yes, they are a bunch of bullies, Queen Koya. Okay, I want you all to pay attention. These people are so out of pocket, and all of this is lawlessness. Now, goes on to say, and how is somebody supposed to work if they're a migrant and they don't have their work permit? They know exactly what they're doing. So now she said one of her clients was told by an ICE agent in Texas that he no longer had permission to work upon his release, which wasn't true. Just lying to these people. She had to seek a judge's order to force the government to mail the man's work permit back. What if this man couldn't afford an attorney? What if he'd not been able to get someone to do that for him? Replacing a work permit can cost over $500. And this is why they're doing it. They want people to be out here starving and broke and penniless, not able to make money. Do you all understand? I told you all, if you're not careful, if you don't stand up and say and do something about this isn't just about immigrants. If you don't stand up and say something or do something, including boycott March the 7th, you have to at least do something. Because if you don't, they're going to turn us all into slaves. I told you what's going on over there in the Gaza Strip with the Palestinians will be going on right here. And who do you think is going to be getting the brunt of it? Okay? These people have a nefarious plan, and I wish I could tell y'all exactly what it is, but sadly I cannot, not on YouTube. Now, with that all being said, goes on to say, it could cost over $500 and take the better part of a year to receive. So what are you supposed to do in the meantime? Claire Glenn, who has represented about 24 immigrants detained in recent weeks, said one of her clients had $114 in cash, but they took it. Another client had $24 taken, though it was returned to him as a check. Now, this has been just adding constitutional insult to illegal detention injuries. And by the way, don't forget that I told you these people are not just in detention centers, they're in concentration camps. And I saw one the other day, and let me tell you something, we should all be very concerned because I saw a video, and I hope I uploaded it so I can show it to you all. I can't remember. I have so much that I be uploading and all this stuff. I have done hours of research. But let me just say, there was a video that I saw that was so unsettling. It was little migrant children, and they were in their own concentration camp. I didn't see any parents. All I saw was children. What are they doing with these children? Well, it looks like they're prepping them for trafficking. Now, I want you all to pay attention, because why are these kids in a separate facility from adults? And it was so sad. And it's like the people that came in that were recording it, some of the children were smiling and waving because it was like they were happy to see somebody who wasn't there to brutalize them. It was just all just very disturbing. But let me continue. Measure Man says they're building the camps for us, not migrants. For all of us, and not just Black people, for white people too. Poor white people. Okay, that's what they don't realize. They may not realize MAGA. But listen, like I told you all the other day, this is nothing new. I told you all about these camps back in 2020. I told you all what was coming. I told you that my sister called me, and she was in some part of Georgia, some rural part of Georgia, and she said she saw these trains. And they had all of these containers, these huge tubs that were like 6 feet long, stacked to capacity. Remember I told you all that, like, there's going to be a bunch of people dying or something. She wasn't the only one that said it, but she was the first one that I heard it from personally. But then other people came out and started saying these things too, that they had seen it in their states. Let's continue. See, what you have to realize is all the things that we were hearing back in 2020 that people said were conspiracies, all of that stuff is combined with this. All of these things go together, okay? All of these things are all connected. And there's a story that I told you all about something that happened on an island. I told you all this a few years ago. I don't remember what year I told you all, but I told you all about something that happened on an island years ago. And that's all connected to this too. And it wasn't Epstein Island. It was Jekyll Island. And I'm going to have to bring that video up at some point so you all can, that pact that was made there, that what they did there is all connected to this. But we'll have to talk about that in another day. Measure Man says, they're building the camps for us, not migrants. I read that. Okay, thank you, beloved. Yes, they absolutely are building those things for all of us. Okay, for all of us. You see, they shot Nicole Good in the face multiple times. They shot Alex Pretty 10 times. Now we've seen them do that to Black people over and over and over and over and over again. But now you see them doing it to their own people. Well, that's the same thing. They're going to put those same type of their people, the people that don't go along with them, the people that are not down with MAGA, the people that are against what they're doing and know this is all nefarious and want to stand up and speak out. That's for them too. That's for them too. That's why there's really no time for division. There's really no time for that. This is not about left and right. I told you all, it's not about Democrats and Republicans. This is about a battle between good and evil. And you need to be asking yourself, whose side are you on? This is about God versus Satan. Okay? So we already know that God's more powerful than Satan, but what about God's people? If you're God's people, are you more powerful than Satan's people? Because so far it's not looking like it. Because so far, a lot of y'all are acting like y'all some scared to death Negroes. That's what some of y'all is acting like. Now, I'm not specifically talking about people in the chat, but I'm talking about some of our people collectively. Seems to me like they're trying to make excuses why not to speak out or to do something. Remember how people kept saying it wasn't no Black people involved? As if that mattered when we're talking about children and babies. But there are Black people involved, and I've shown you the receipts. And I showed you yesterday how they hunted Black people. I've shown you how they were feeding people to alligators. Who do you think those people were? So with that all being said, at the end of the day, if we don't get it together, y'all don't even want to see what's coming. But hold on, because this is going to get good. Now let's keep going. And Measure Man, I appreciate your insight into the topic and your contribution, beloved. Peace, love, and blessings. Now let's continue, because goes on to say, this has been just adding constitutional insult to illegal detention injuries. Now, this is what Glenn said. Now, federal judges in Minnesota, increasingly incensed at ICE not following their orders, have started detailing that people must be released with all of their belongings and not to be left outside in the dangerous cold. And why would the judge have to say that? Because you would think that would be common sense. But you see, just to be low down and nefarious, they've been beating the crap out of some of these people, even breaking and bruising their ribs and leaving them in the wooded areas without a cell phone, without any type of aid or anything. Okay, that's what some of these people have said, that they had to find their way out of woods. Why would you drop anybody off in the woods? Well, because you must want them to die there. Okay, that's what that sounds like to me. Now, with that all being said, this is all alleged. The people said it, but I wasn't there to see. But this is what they're saying, but I absolutely believe them. Now, there doesn't seem to be much rhyme or reason to who gets to keep their belongings, attorneys told the reformer, saying except that immigrant detainees are more likely to have their documents held while protesters and observers lose their phones. And why do they want to keep their phones? Because they're stealing them in some cases. And at the end of the day, they also had one man say that they copied his phone. But hold on, wait till y'all find out who's helping them to do these things. Okay, wait till you find out they have so many resources and so many people helping them. These people, in my opinion, have to be in on it, because why in the hell would you be helping them? Where do you find out who is one of the big people that's helping them? But let me continue. And I can't say too much. I'm just going to have to let y'all read some of it on the screen maybe. But anyway, goes on to say, The Department of Homeland Security did not respond to questions about agents confiscating people's belongings. Now, the seized phones in particular have alarmed civil rights attorneys because they contain so much personal information about their owners. Photos, videos, text messages, phone numbers, bank records, and because most people aren't facing any criminal charges. So why do they need your information? Because they want to try to find something on you. They want to know where you live. They want to know all of your information so they can do whatever. Maybe they'll come kick in your door. Now, the seized phones in particular, oh, I read that. Now, my suspicion, now this is what they say. My suspicion is there are Fourth Amendment violations going on. This is what Keith Ryock, a criminal defense and civil rights attorney, said, referring to the constitutional prohibition on unreasonable search and seizure. He says, because why would they need these phones? What are they doing with the phones? Why are they holding them for so long? Now, he also said it's especially concerning given the many other ways federal agents have been tracking residents through license plate readers and facial recognition software. ICE agents have followed people home. Are y'all hearing this? Taking pictures of their homes and told them they're being put in a database. ICE issued an internal memo last year asserting that agents don't need a judicial warrant to use force to enter someone's home. So they can just come and kick in your door with no warrant? Do you all hear this? They can just come to your home and kick in your door and do whatever. And I saw this woman, she was really freaking out because they did that to her. And her children were screaming and crying. It was awful. So federal agents aren't legally allowed to unlock phones to snoop around without a warrant, although ports of entry are a notable exception. Now, attorneys who spoke to the reformer said they haven't heard of any warrants being issued for phones seized from observers and protesters. Less than 30 observers and protesters have even been charged with a crime, okay, according to Reich's tally. Now, Johnson's daughter, who can track his phone's location, watched it move around the Whipple building the day he was detained. Eventually, it stopped pinging ostensibly because it ran out of battery. But days later, it popped back up. Someone seemed to have charged it, though who did it and why was not clear. Johnson's attorney, Joshua Preston, noted that the federal government has expressed its interest in group chats or Signal, the popular encrypted messaging app that residents use to track ICE activity and coordinate assistance efforts. FBI Director Kash Patel announced in January an investigation into the Signal chats after a conservative influencer infiltrated them, saying chat members could be endangering law enforcement by sharing their locations and license plate numbers. First Amendment experts have expressed skepticism that anything would come of this investigation, okay, apart from perhaps a desired chilling effect on legally protected speech. For what it's worth, Johnson never joined any of the Signal groups, and he marked his phone missing remotely and set it to wipe the data once it connected to a network. It's not just unlawful searches that people arrested by ICE may worry about. One teenager detained by ICE tracked his phone back to a vending machine for use electronics near a federal detention center. I told you all that weeks ago. So this is just all crazy. I'm not even going to read the rest of this. The bottom line is this is what they're doing. Okay, so they can just take your darn phone, come in your house, have all of your data, access, and information. And even if you're not even a criminal, okay, what does that sound like, people? Some people need to wake up. Okay, because some people are still hitting the snooze and they just don't want to hear this stuff, or they just want to ignore it and go on like life's just regular. Life is not regular. Okay, and I found some information in the files that let me know that they're trying to keep us within the matrix. They're trying to keep us from rising out of here, okay, from finding out, everything that's going on, from raising our levels of consciousness. They're trying to do spiritual manipulation, okay? The Soul Sister said it sounds like a police state. Absolutely, just like over in the Gaza Strip. Now, with that all being said, let's continue. I'm going to go to this video where this witness to the Alex Preddy situation. I just want you all to hear what he said. Now, this is weeks old, but I just want you all to hear it because he describes what happened, when he was detained by the federal agents. This is from like 3 weeks ago when Alex Pretty was murdered. And then after this, we're going to get into these files. Oh my God, we're already 44 minutes in. Time is going by so quickly. I got to speed up. Okay, let's continue.
Minneapolis for Alex Pretty, the man shot and killed Saturday morning by Border Patrol. As a sea of candles and flowers fill the spot where he took his last breath, community members are protesting his death. Thanks for joining us tonight.
With emotions high, many questions unanswered, we are learning the latest in the wake of this weekend's events. So far, the National Guard was called into the scene of the shooting overnight and then pulled back as things remain peaceful. The BCA is conducting their own investigation into the shooting after being kept from the scene yesterday. Attorney General Pam Bondi pressed state officials for data and to scrap so-called sanctuary policies to end the federal surge. And a federal judge barred the Department of Homeland Security from destroying any evidence from the shooting.
We're bringing you team coverage tonight from our reporters all across the metro, but we want to.
We the people said we've been in the matrix. It's called a bullpen in jail while waiting to see a judge. The matrix I'm talking about is a false reality. Okay, where we're not seeing the truth of things. They want us to stay that way and not elevate and rise in our consciousness so we can see beyond the veil. That's what I'm talking about, beloved. I'm not talking about jail.
Begin with new details about what happened after the shooting of Alex Pretty, specifically to the crowd who was there and witnessed what happened.
Our Jonah Kaplan is live tonight. And Jonah, we're learning of several arrests.
Yeah, Erin and Derek, we know from new affidavits filed in federal court that people who were there witnessing the shooting were then arrested and detained immediately after that shooting. And we spoke with one of the witnesses who was detained, and he said to us that he heard agents talk about several USCs, United States citizens, in custody.
These guys, this right here, this whole thing, and I watched the agent shoot him.
This man, who asked us to call him Javier for safety reasons, lives a few blocks from where federal agents shot and killed Alex Pretty.
What the f*** did you just do?
He said he ran to the area after neighbors alerted him to an ongoing raid. It's now been, more than a day, 36 hours.
Yeah.
What are the sights, what are the sounds that you still can't get out of your mind?
The whistles, me screaming in Spanish, "Where are you?" When I got there, I was screaming. I forgot about that.
Who were you screaming for?
The immigrant.
He didn't know who ICE was after, but according to Javier, the who doesn't matter.
I mean, look, bro, I'm a child of immigrants, bro. You know what I'm saying?
What if it was someone with a criminal record?
It doesn't matter, bro. It doesn't matter to me. These people, they're trying to come here and better their lives. They were probably forced to do f***ed up shit. You understand me?
After the shooting, Javier said agents then came after him.
They're like, "Get the f*** over here, get the f*** over here." And I was like, "Get the f*** off me, I'm not even doing anything. There's not even no crime, I'm a bystander."
Did they tell you why you were being arrested?
For inciting a riot, impeding, and then for assaults on federal agent, and then death threats.
Did you make a death threat?
No, I just said, "How would you like if somebody killed you like that? That's f***ed up. Why did you do that to him?"
You just watched someone be shot and killed by federal agents.
Yeah.
Why not then follow their orders?
Because at that point in time, it's not about me, it's about the cause. My brother in arms just died. Whether I know him or not, he died for the cause.
What is the cause?
Our people being protected. Okay, it's about these people coming here to better their lives.
Ice out!
What's it like inside Whipple? Paint the picture for us.
Cold. Like institutional, like a prison, bro.
How do you find a personal sense of security?
By not being scared of them, bro. I'm not gonna be intimidated by them. My father always told me, never be scared of a person that bleeds as much as you do.
We looked at the federal records. There are no formal charges against Javier. He said he was held at Whipple first by himself in a cell and then joined by others. And then they were given water, food, as well as medical attention before being released. Derek and Aaron.
Okay, Jonah, live for us. Thank you.
Whew, okay, so songwriter Sonny said he probably instigated. Well, I'm pretty sure ICE instigated it like they do everything else. If ICE is involved, they instigated it. That's just a fact. Nobody started anything with them. They're purposely starting things just like they did over in Gaza, because those are the same people as far as I'm concerned. Some of ICE is them, in my opinion. Now, with that all being said, let's go to this. So here's the thing. America's not doing anything. They want to sweep all of this under the rug. They don't want us talking about it, right? Put a 1 in the chat if you have heard about the burning of Ball. 1's in the chat. 1's in the chat. If you have heard about the burning of Ball. Now this white Hispanic would have been laughing or going by his day if it was only black folks being hemmed up in the streets. He may have been. He may have been. Who knows? Okay, so we're going to go to that because they're burning Ball. But at the end of the day, what's America doing? They're not doing anything. Okay, but just trying to keep up the rules. That's what they're doing. Trying to act like there's nothing to see here, folks. So let's get into it. Now we know who's been worshiping Baal at this point. And anyone who missed the video that I did the other day breaking down Baal and how they've had some of us in the United States unwittingly worshiping Baal right along with them, please go back and watch that video, okay? Because you don't want to be worshiping Baal, but they've literally had some of y'all doing it, okay? At the end of the day.
Flames rise in Tehran as a horned figure burns in the heart of revolution rallies. Why were statues of the ancient deity Baal?
And let me say this too. This burning of Baal is one of the reasons Trump is so mad at Iran as well. Why he's been making all of these threats about Iran, okay? Please pay attention. But I already told you all at the beginning of last year that Trump was going to turn around and he's going to do everything he can to go against Iran. I said he might even end up getting us into a war with them over those other people that they don't want us speaking about. And y'all know what people I'm talking about, right? Because those people have a problem with Iran. Why is he making that America's problem? Well, because he sold us out, that's why.
Set alight across Iran. From biblical symbolism to modern conspiracy theories, this fiery spectacle is about far more than history. Iranian state-organized rallies marking the anniversary of Iran's 1979 Islamic Revolution took an unusual turn this week as demonstrators in several cities set fire to large statues depicting a horned, bull-headed figure identified by organizers as Baal, an ancient deity referenced in biblical and Islamic tradition. According to Iranian media, the coordinated burnings were framed as a symbolic protest against what organizers described as moral corruption in the West. Some of the events were reported to have taken place simultaneously in different cities. Images circulated online showed a towering bull-headed effigy engulfed in flames in Tehran's Azadi Square. In some instances, the displays included additional imagery, such as the number 666, and references to US President Donald Trump. Participants were heard chanting "Death to Israel" and "Death to America."
Now, first of all, why would they have that huge demonic image in their country in the first place? Okay, please pay attention. And you know, I think I'm going to have to, at some point, if I remember, show you all the Georgia Guidestones again, because now they've been destroyed. But when I went there and I recorded it, and remember, I read to you all what it said on there, the messaging, and it was written in 7 different languages. And I'm so glad that I went. My spirit told me to go and see that thing because it would not be there long. And then what do you know? After I saw it and went there and recorded and everything, it was destroyed. Okay? And we know why they destroyed it. Because now that the truth started coming out, they had to get rid of it because that was verifying what people were saying, as far as I'm concerned.
Slogans commonly heard at official anniversary gatherings. Iranian news agency Mehr described the effigy as the idol of Baal, portraying it as a false god associated with deviation from monotheism. Online speculation.
You all see this right here, this blue and white structure with a gold thing at the top? Jeffrey Epstein's temple. Okay, is that his temple or another one? But he has a temple exactly like that. Okay, I've shown it to you. And Naomi Campbell's house has that same thing at the top. And her house looks like the all-seeing eye of Horus. I did a whole video about that like 3 or 4 years ago.
Linked Epstein to ancient deities such as Baal or Moloch, figures that in some traditions are associated with child sacrifice. Iranian organizers describe the statue burning as a symbolic act intended to draw attention to alleged corruption.
Okay, so now let's go to this next clip. This is the one where they said they were mocking Trump and Epstein as they burned Baal. Now, with that all being said, let's get into some of these files because we're almost an hour in. Okay, I got to speed up the process. So let's go to the trap door. Let's go to the trap door that was on Epstein's island that was in the house. Now, this is a picture that I found in the Epstein files that really is very disturbing. Okay, very disturbing. You all see that? Also, Dottie said, I saw the ball broadcast. Excellent. Thank you, beloved. I appreciate your kind words. Do you all see that? This is a trap door in the house that Epstein had on the island. And then you see the water below. Okay? Then you see the water below. Now, you know what that was for. Who was he throwing in that water? Can you imagine being dragged to that trap door and them opening it and throwing you in there? Yes, that's the sea, black topaz. Yes, absolutely. How scary is that? But imagine children being thrown down there. Thank you, Queen LL. I'll be typing in the comments before you finish the sentence. We are Pisces. Okay, high vibrational and vindicated as conspiracy theorists. Absolutely, beloved. Absolutely. And thank you for your insight into the topic and your contribution to the channel. I appreciate you. Peace, love, and blessings. Now, with that all being said, you see what kind of sick nefariousness was going on there? Hold on. Let's go to the next one. I didn't even label this one. What is this? Oh, yeah. Now, let's take a look at this file right here. And also, I don't remember if I told you all this on yesterday or not, but there is a file. No, I didn't find it, but I heard someone, I heard a few people talking about this file where they were talking about lettuce and alcohol, basically saying that the government, and I want you all to pay attention because I said this years ago and you all probably knew this years ago yourselves. We all should have known. They were saying basically that they promote alcohol because alcohol makes people easier to manipulate. Okay, but they don't promote the Mary Jane, which they call it lettuce. Okay, the devil's lettuce is what they were calling it. They don't promote the devil's lettuce because that makes people ask questions, because they're more consciously aware of things and they have a whole lot of questions, and then they start wondering, well, wait a minute, why are you telling me this? And when they're talking about the people, they're talking about these younger people, these kids, okay, that they had. So they're talking about basically, this is the reason that because I used to always say, and I've said this on broadcast years ago, I said, why is alcohol legal, but Mary Jane isn't? Now, we know it is in some states, but why isn't it legal across the board? At the time when I was talking about this, I had questions. But so now we see why. Okay, this is all connected to the Epstein stuff. Isn't it weird? They've literally been controlling our entire lives. Do you all get that yet? That they have been shaping and molding our entire lives. Sending your kids to schools where they write the textbooks, they publish the textbooks and put the information they want us to have in there and withhold what they do not. Now, this says, reference to Thanksgiving news, and this is from John Brockman on November the 28th of 2013. It says, you well, better than well. Things are going well. He meant things clearly are going well, but no, Jeffrey. When am I going to see you? Give me a call tomorrow if you're bored at home. And that part is redacted. Happy Hanukkah. Okay, you know who celebrates Hanukkah. And then it says, P.S. You missed the big event on Saturday, a party with a dozen beautiful East Side girls. Well, a dozen 1-year-olds. A party with 1-year-olds. Do you all hear this? Do you all hear this? You know what somebody said, and it made all the sense to me? They said, you know why nobody's protesting the Epstein files? You know why nobody's out there taking to the streets protesting the Epstein files? They said because the people who fund the protest, well, they would be protesting against themselves. When I tell you, everybody, not literally everybody, but every realm of so many different things has people that are involved. There's so many names in the files. There's so many redacted names in the files. Some of the names have been connected to people. We looked the people up to see who these people are. Many of these people are foreigners, but nonetheless, some of these people we already know. I just showed you all the other day, 12 people in Trump's own circle who are in there, and not just in there as happenstance or someone mentioning them, but some of them have horrendous accusations against them, specifically Trump. He's the worst. He's one of the worst. Now, let's continue. Let's go to, hold on. I'm looking for something real quick. Give me just a second. Okay, here it is. I don't know how I forgot to send this. Okay, now let's go to this next file. I mean, because these files really are proving that everything that so-called conspiracy theorists, like they called us, okay, that the stuff is absolutely true. But see, I told you all. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. I meant to pull it up first. Hold on. I told you all that conspiracy theorists tend to do a whole lot of research. Okay? Tend to do a whole lot of research. At least 10,000 hours worth, in my opinion. I told you all this years ago. And let's not forget why the term conspiracy theorist was ever created in the first place by the CIA. They created that term back in the 60s for the people who actually saw the truth of what happened to President John F. Kennedy. Okay? The people who knew who really killed him, which in my opinion was the limo driver. Okay? And I learned that from William Cooper decades ago. I actually saw the footage of him turning around or him shooting him in the car. Okay, so now let's look at this. Now, this is dated May the 8th of 2018. It says, I think that the whole game is internal. All our pleasures and pain are aroused by satisfying or frustrating our needs, which is roughly peaking, implemented in our reptilian brain. Okay, do you all hear that? A reptilian brain. Now, our neocortex is modeling these needs as purposes, so we can regulate our behavior by satisfying your needs, or I'm sorry, our needs. For example, the physical pain and hunger and thirst exist on the level of needs, and survival is a purpose, a kind of modeling abstraction, as are good and drink. Many of our purposes are outside of the organism, such as relationship purposes and social purposes, even our aesthetic purposes, like Jeffrey enjoying an intellectual standoff between Bannon and Summers, are not really related to the organism. While the needs are somewhat, I'm sorry, now sometimes I may try to figure out what they have here, because in some of the cases, they don't have a letter. They have a letter missing, and then they have the equal sign. And I don't know why that is, but many of the files have that in it. Okay, so anyway, while the needs are somewhat hard-coded, our reaction to them is not. We can modulate pain and pleasure experiences that we can route our regulation around satisfying our needs, and we can repurpose our needs for competence, dominance, affiliation, and aesthetics for almost arbitrary goals by changing the regulation goals, which is always internal to our mind. Okay, we change the payoff matrix. Okay, we change the payoff matrix. All right, that's what they said. At the bottom, it says, I posit that there is an internal game with its own payoff matrix, separate from the internal. Okay, is there a machine internal state equivalent? So they're talking about the matrix, reptilians. Okay, I just want you all to pay attention. This stuff is just all so demonic and clearly nefarious. They also were talking about time travel. Okay, they were talking about time travel and all kinds of crazy stuff. They were talking about lizards. Okay, and I don't mean just like a pet lizard either. I think it had something sinister behind it. So, okay, let's go to it. Hold on. Okay, I'm going to go to this file here. This was sent from Jeffrey Epstein on September the 22nd of 2012. Now it says more bullshit. Now she has to explain why nothing seems to have been removed. It says, just talk to my doc. Had a blank yesterday. So bizarre, he called me on Saturday. Not only has my left blank and my SAID rate is 0, I'm a Highlander or a lizard. I have seen the blank in jars and also the videos from surgery, so I know they're out. Okay, maybe I'm not really human. Now, with that all being said, I found that same document, not in the files. Someone posted it with some of that stuff redacted. The stuff they had redacted was unredacted, I meant. And here's the same file. Just talk to my, now we'll see what they actually said. Just talk to my doc. Had a biopsy, ultrasound, and surveillance CT yesterday. So bizarre, he called me on a Saturday. They thought that was strange because why is a doctor calling you on a Saturday? And that's true because they usually don't. They'll usually wait till the next business week or business day. So, and why would they redact this? Why would they redact the fact that the person had the biopsy, ultrasound, or surveillance CT scan? We could say because it's their medical business, maybe. Okay, but it says, not only has my left ovary grown back. Now listen to this, because if you cut off a lizard's tail, what does it do? It grows back. And this person said maybe they're not human and they're talking about lizards. Okay, so please pay attention. All right. Not only has my left ovary grown back, it is producing follicles. And my SAID rate is 0. I'm a Highlander or a lizard. I have seen the ovaries and the tumors in jars and also the videos from surgery. So I know So I know that. And maybe I'm not really human. Okay? I told you all these people are not humans. All right? I told you all. So with that all being said, this is real crazy. Let's continue. Now let's go to where they talk about time travel. Okay. First, what I saw, I didn't think too much of it because that's all it said right there. It just simply said time travel. So I'm not thinking anything. I'm just wondering why they didn't have more context to it. That was sent December the 26th, the day after Christmas 2017, from someone by the name of Martin A. Nowak to Jeffrey Epstein because it has J.E. Okay, so then I said, okay, why didn't he add any more context to it? Well, maybe Jeffrey Epstein already knew what he was talking about. But then I saw this. And this says, Seth, we should explore the biological consequences of time travel. It would be amusing to calculate the rate of evolution of a population or a mutant that can travel in time. Okay, I don't know who this was sent to, but they CC'd Jeffrey Epstein, and I don't know who it was sent from, but it was sent June the 20th of 2011. Then here's one where they talk about time travel in space, and this is by a guy by the name of David Gerlernter. I think that's how you say it. Now, this was sent December the 24th of 2009. Okay, I'm not going to read all of this, but says your physics needs a booster shot. At the horizon of black holes, as one crosses the boundary, in fact, time and space exchange behaviors. Note, there are both charged and non-charged, spinning, non-spinning, okay? BHs. Wormholes allow faster than sea travel. New experiments allow time travel to the past. However, time is still only defined by the vibrations of cesium atoms, only as a parameter, not satisfying to the use. Okay, our friend would argue that your thoughts travel faster than C, predicting the near future and obviously back in time with the inevitable distortions upon recohering. Now it says, I've wondered about your thoughts on time velocity. A reading of basic physics. As you approach C, you lose velocity or speed in time, reaching zero in time at C. Okay, then it says, I think this is supposed to be velocity measured in space equals max attainable velocity in time, a constant related to C. The spectrum's endpoints are O in space and O in time. It's not a priori. It should be priority clear why you can't go faster than C, but it's clear that you can't go slower in time than stopped. Stopped in space equals max rate thundering through time. Nothing to do with physics or philosophy. Whether or not we talk again, please consider checking out my colleague, Drew McDermott. Shank will back me up. Drew is a brilliant AI man from a math background, too low-key to get the attention he deserves. He and I have met weekly for years to argue machine consciousness, etc. Never yet agreed on anything. Thanks. Okay, so do you all see what these devils are up to? We're talking about manipulating space and time. And then right here at the top it says, thanks, I should stick to software, but as I can measure a velocity, see if I pass a fast object going the other direction, I could measure an n satisfying time velocity of c. I thought backward time motion was a part of Finn's famous QCD equations, but would have to travel way back to remember how. For use, time is the comet's tail. If you fly right, you leave a luminous wake of lit up time, and use agree with Greeks that you face backwards in time as you travel forward. You face backward in time as you travel forward. Now, let me tell you what they're basically talking about here. They're trying to say that we can experience the past and present at the same time. Okay? Peaceful Living says, I believe what they call aliens are angels. Could be, but the Nephilim are definitely fallen angels, which are demons. Okay, so moving right along. Likes up, everyone. Please don't forget to like and share. Thank you in advance. Now, we're going to go to this video where this young man was breaking down. Now, you have to excuse him for cursing and being so very dramatic. It is obvious to me that he was very excited about what he found. Okay, but what he found was some very good information. Okay, because I have told you all for years that I do believe they have been manipulating the time. How does time go so quickly? You know, how does the day just end so quickly? Like, you know, you all haven't noticed how the years seem to speed by, sometimes the months. It is so crazy. And I had been saying, like, at least 3 or 4 years ago, I said, it seems like they have sped up time somehow, some way. So that all being said, let's go to this video. He says they literally have been trying to manipulate time and the matrix. They want to alter their destiny. They know it's coming. I swear. He said, swear I'm lying. And that's exactly what they want to do. They want to change the outcome because they know what's coming for them. And these devils, you know, they already know that their time is just about up. And they're doing anything and everything they can to stop that. Okay, let's continue.
To the real motherfucking.
Hold on. Let me say something else too. I don't know if you all remember this. You should. But back in 2020, I found a video. I don't even remember how I found it, but I found a video that's clearly been scrubbed from the internet. This video was about a meeting between Bill Gates and this other guy who was some kind of scientist or biologist or whatnot. And they were talking about giving people some type of I'm going to say venom because y'all know the code word. Well, y'all know what I'm talking about. They were talking about giving people some sort of venom and that it was going to do something to the God gene that we all have. And there was a man, you could hear him saying, "Where is God? I can't find God. My soul is dead." And I'm like, why is this guy saying that? You know, and at the time I was thinking it had something to do with the how can I say it? The episode that happened that we all had to experience when we were on lockdown and all that stuff. Y'all know what was going on at that time in 2020. I thought it had something to do with that. But now as I realized that it had something to do with this also, because they're sitting there talking about something about the God gene. This is all alleged. Let me just say allegedly. They're talking about the God gene and people's spirituality and what side of the brain, you know, is for spirituality and what side of the brain is for religion. They were saying these things. And then they were talking about, there was a man talking about his soul was gone and he couldn't feel God. And so I couldn't play that video on YouTube at the time. And so I did a podcast. I created a podcast on Spotify and then I put it on my podcast. After I put that video, my podcast had been up for months. And once I put that video up, that audio, my podcast was taken down without any explanation. I went back. I couldn't log in. It was completely gone. Okay? It was completely gone. I want you all to remember that. Now, let's go to what this young man is saying.
I always knew that Epstein Island is not just there for no reason. Every single thing is is in a specific place for a specific reason. It's not just because he wanted a long time. So boom, let's talk about it. You're gonna see this word sundial over and over and over again, no matter what you see, even if they're speaking in code. They're talking about this sundial over and over and over again. Look right here. This is him. This is J.E. EpiPen. Road to sundial. You're going to keep seeing that. Then you look right here. This is the Quantum Vision Construction LLC. This is the company that they use to build the sundial. Why would a company that's used to create a sundial be named Quantum Visio? Let me tell you right now, nothing is a coincidence. You go to this man right here, Kevin McCarthy, sundials, DNA, whatever. Hi, EpiPen. The other month, I was building a nice equatorial sundial on the lawn of our villa on St. John. Some photos are attached. A brazed time strip which is magnetically preloaded against Teflon guide strips in a slot of an equatorial art to implement the equation of time correction. What the fuck do you mean? Equation of time correction! Bitch, what the fuck? The equation of time correction. How did I find this? I've been researching DNA sequencing. We have a mutual acquaintance in George Church. I have been collaborating with George for some years now, re-architecting DNA sequencing. What I told you guys in the last fucking video, the commercialized H sequencer technology is still undergoing the initial stakeout. The H sequencer technology, when you search it up, the hypothesis proposes the vascular monoamine transporter 2 gene, which influences brain chemistry, predisposes humans to spiritual experiences. That better not sound like they trying to force us into a motherfucking religion and a belief. Technologies used to analyze genes in relation to personality traits associated with spirituality, such as self-transcendence. They are trying to keep us stuck in this fucking matrix. Don't believe me? I got more. Let's search up what an equatorial sundial is. So this is what that looks like. You want to see an older version? This is what that looks like. This is what that looks like. Let's go back to the definition. An equatorial sundial is a sun-based timepiece featuring a dial plate set parallel to the Earth's equator and the genome shadow casting rod set perpendicular pointing.
Now listen, like I told you all, he's very dramatic. Okay, Dottie says, yes, research and critical thinking will absolutely blow your mind, hence the passion. Exactly. And see, the thing of it is, he's recording himself, okay, and he's excited about this research. Let me tell you something. When I find stuff on here, I literally be talking to myself and talking to God at this, sometimes when I find these things, because I'm just like, I can't believe it. It boggles the mind.
Towards the celestial pole. Why would they need a sun-based timepiece that is parallel to the Earth's equator and it's perpendicular to the celestial pole? That shit sound like motherfucking time travel to me. And you search up, is J.E. EpiPen's island on the equatorial sundial? Yes, a large decorated sundial was built on the highest point of Little St. James. Why the fuck would you need a sundial, my G? So y'all already know what the fuck I'm finna ask. What does this equatorial sundial mean spiritually? An equatorial sundial, characterized as a genome pointing directly to the celestial pole and the dial plate parallel to the Earth's equator, holds a deep spiritual significance as a symbol of divine order, the balance between heaven and earth, and the journey of a soul through time. Cosmic harmony and divine order. The precise alignment, the celestial aspects is viewed as a reflection of orderly divine structure of the universe. Balance and equanimity. It aligns with the equator. This type of sundial represents the point of equilibrium. It serves as a reminder of balance between day and night, masculine and feminine, and material and spiritual realms. The passage of time and morality. reminder of death. The sundial signifies the fleeting nature of human existence. The moving shadow serves as a reminder to live in the present, respect the inevitable, and the continuous cycle of life and death. What is going on Epstein's EpiPens Island? Life and death continuously. That's what they need to power what? The equatorial sundial. The resurrection and the rebirth. Just as the sun sets to rise again, the sundial often symbolizes the endless cycles of days, seasons, reincarnation, continuity, decay, and rebirth. The biblical context. The sundial of Oz, mentioned in Bibles 2 Kings 20, represents an intersection of divine promise and physical reality, where the movement of a shadow, a sign from God, symbolizes life being prolonged and God's power over nature law. So when I sit there and tell you everything you was fucking taught is a lie, and they are doing exactly what they told us we should not be doing. Buy your copper pendant, grab your birthstone, start meditating, and start unlocking your motherfucking power.
Okay? Did y'all hear that? Now, that was all very interesting. And thank God he did all that research, so I didn't have to. Okay? But let me just tell you all something. You see, what he's talking about, that they're using esoteric knowledge. Those of you who follow the spiritual channel, y'all know I call myself an esoteric philosopher because I have a very broad knowledge. Okay, I have a whole lot of information on esoteric teachings. Okay, so that have been said, this is what they have been using against us, and I want you all to pay attention, because that stuff that he just talked about also is tied in to the paper that I just read you about time and space. So let me just tell you initially, or essentially, shall I say, what they were saying in that paper. So they talked about the black hole and all of that. Now, at the horizon of black holes, as one crosses the boundary, time and space exchange behaviors. Okay, that's what happened. Now, this is loosely inspired by real relativity, okay, but just basically oversimplified. So, near a black hole's event horizon, which was predicted by Albert Einstein's theory of general relativity. So on the outside, the horizon of time, or outside of the horizon, time behaves like time and space like space. Inside the horizon, mathematically, the radial direction toward basically the center becomes unavoidable. So almost like how time always moves forward. So people sometimes say time and space swap roles, but that's a metaphor. Okay, it's not a literal flip. You don't suddenly walk through time like it's a hallway, but they can change behaviors. Okay, so it's actually physics. And black holes can also be categorized as non-spinning, uncharged. Okay, that's what Schwarzschild, I believe that's the scientist's name. That's what Schwarzschild said, and he said non-spinning and uncharged. There was a guy by the name of Kerr. He talked about the spinning. So this is all more grounded. These are scientifically grounded statements. And what I also found interesting is that I saw a video today, and I haven't looked in the files for this as of yet, but someone did a video saying that Stephen Hawking was in the files and that Stephen Hawking was down with Epstein. And I said, wouldn't you know, that all makes sense. That's how they have so much scientific knowledge. Stephen Hawking was like one of the masters in the scientific world. Y'all know that, right? And to think that he was doing nefarious things with Epstein, like this is all allegedly, let me just say, allegedly. So they wanted to do, some sort of experimental work. Quantum systems can simulate time reversal of states, and then people can manipulate information about past states. Okay, remember, they were talking about time travel and talking about being in the future or the past and the future at the same time. Okay, so with that all being said, this is just all very interesting. But let me continue. I don't want to get caught up too much in that, because I could go on and on. But the bottom line is, these devils have been manipulating all sorts of things. They have literally been controlling the world. Okay? This is what they have been doing. Everything that we have been taught is all lies and BS because they're the ones that taught it to us. It all came from their teachings, their writings, and their books. Now, with that all being said, let's talk about this dental chair. The dental chair that was in the files. Because remember the other day I told you all that they were there was something in the files where they were talking about removing the children's teeth so they could do nasty things, and y'all know what I'm talking about, tasting cucumbers and whatnot. They were removing the children's teeth. Okay, so they have this dental chair right in the middle of Epstein's home.
House Democrats have just released 10 never-before-seen pictures and videos of Epstein's private island in the Virgin Islands. I'm Terry Parker, investigative reporter here in Palm Beach County. Been covering this case since the beginning. Let's take a look at what we're looking at. Okay, so this is the main house, I guess. Just walking along. You can hear the wind. Anyway, Democrats release pictures like these and video. I want to go over to the pool. I want to show you something. Here's the pool. Back in 2020, I interviewed a former employee of Epstein's on this island. He was in charge of the IT. He says that he saw Prince Andrew and Virginia Giuffre embracing right by this pool. And here's a weird little sculpture. Here's one of the bedrooms. This is weird. This is a chalkboard inside this big library, and some of the words: power, deception, plants, appear, music, time. Okay, so I think he's trying to act like an intellectual here. And here's a dental chair. I think he had one of these in another house, as I recall, but maybe I'm remembering this house. I covered this so.
That's the chair I'm talking about right there. That's the dental chair. So supposedly they would give the children laughing gas. Okay, they were giving them laughing gas and extracting their teeth. Also, I think they were doing it for more than one reason. Because another thing I think they were doing it for is because if you find a dead body and you don't know who the person is, how is the person identified? Through their dental records. Through their dental records. So I think that's another reason they were doing that as well. Now, with that all being said, Jenny Marie says Epstein did not start Bitcoin. That's a myth. Okay, it may be a myth, beloved. But according to my research, here's what I found. You all pay attention, because I bring receipts, not hearsay. And if it's a myth, please prove it and show me your receipts to prove it's a myth. Now, can you all see this? Hold on. I want to make sure you all can see that. Okay, I typed in, who started Bitcoin? Bitcoin was created by an anonymous person or group using the pseudonym Satoshi Nakamoto, who published the foundational white paper in 2008 and released the software in 2009. Okay, despite years of speculation and various candidates proposed, the true identity of Nakamoto remains unknown. Well, it's unknown until now. It's unknown until now. Okay, let's get into it. Because here's what I found in the Epstein files. And if it's a lie, then Jeffrey Epstein told a lie that he didn't know anybody was ever going to find. So why would he have told it? Bam, there it is. Let's read it. October 31st of 2008. What's the date that I just told you? It says, who published the foundational white paper in 2008, released the software in 2009, right? This email is from October 31st, 2008. Reference to Project Bitcoin funding and white paper. Highbine, Ghislaine, the Satoshi pseudonym is working perfectly. Our little digital gold mine is ready for the world. Funding secured, Jeffrey. Now tell me again, Jeffrey didn't start Bitcoin. He is the Satoshi Nakaku person. Okay? That's him. It's right there in black and white. Satoshi Nakamoto was Jeffrey Epstein. That's who that was. So a myth? Well, I don't think so. I don't think so. Now I want y'all to pay attention. So with that being said, why did he create Bitcoin? So that he could traffic these children without there being any trace. Okay? So he was out there selling these children, let me say allegedly, without there being a trace. Okay? Honey, I do thorough research and I fact check myself, okay, to make sure that I know what I'm talking about. All right? I don't come in here and tell people myths. Now, with that all being said, let's go to this next clip because I want you all to keep in mind that at the beginning of the year, when I told you, now you're saying, Madam Google, did Epstein start Bitcoin? I already Googled it. I just showed it to you on the screen. Okay. It said that a person used a pseudonym, Satoshi Nakamoto. That's who it says created it, right? And then I showed you where in the emails, that person is obviously Jeffrey Epstein. It's right there. That person is Jeffrey Epstein. The Satoshi pseudonym is working perfectly. Now you go Google who they say created it, because I just did, and that's what it said. Okay? I'm sorry. Just accept the L. Now, with that all being said, let's continue. So remember at the beginning of the year, I told you all, or not the beginning of this year, the beginning of last year, when I did that video about Trump, about his tariffs, how they're going to just be so bad for everybody, it's not going to work out for us, he's going to lie and say that it's going to make us money. I did a whole PowerPoint presentation, and all of that stuff has already come to pass. Remember when I told you all, I did the video about him saying he was going to be the king of the Jews and all of that? Okay, now remember that, because I told you all that Trump was going to usher in the new blankety blank. And I told you all I don't want to say it because every time you say it, they put a little light blue notification or whatever connected to your video. But y'all know what I told you about the order, not the old one, but a new one that he was going to bring in, right? Okay, now listen to this. And I also told you all, you heard it here first. I also told you all that Trump's job is to dismantle America from the inside out. And I told you all that before the files ever dropped. I told you all this last year. So everything that I've been telling you all about Trump and what his plot and plan is, what he's doing, is all happening right now. Not to mention some of the stuff we're finding in the files. I also told you 6 years ago, okay, back in 2020, and that's why I've been shadow banned on here since then. Okay, so with that all being said, I think I've proved my point that my credentials are accurate. With that all being said, let's go to this clip, okay? Because this young man said something I thought was interesting, but even more so, he played a video.
Y'all, I just found out why the Epstein files were released and what is actually going on behind the scenes that they don't want you to know. And I have to tread lightly on this one because my account is already on the verge of being banned. And if you don't believe me, now we all...
Hold on, let's talk about it. You see how his account's on the verge of being banned? Well, guess who else's account was banned? Mine. Okay, mine was banned. When I did a very salacious video about Trump, saying a lot of things that were absolutely true as far as I was concerned. I did a video about Bill Gates and some oligarchs and how they're trying to, in my opinion, let me just say, how in my opinion, they were trying to control the food supply and why they were doing so. And then I did a review of a book that was written exposing some things that were going on. And, you know, I got community guideline strikes on TikTok for all of those. And then the next thing I knew, they took down my whole entire TikTok and I had like 110,000 followers. Okay. I had like 110,000 followers. And as you all know, they even took my YouTube channel back in 2020 or 2021. Kept it for 8 months and I had to go to court. So if I'm not knowing what I'm talking about, why do you think all of that happened? It's because I didn't know what I was talking about, and everything I was talking about is happening right now. It's all coming out in the wash, and that's why YouTube owes me an apology, as far as I'm concerned. But let's continue.
No, Trump has been making some moves over in the Middle East, and they've been working on this. And there's a lot of new development over in the Middle East as well, but that's all beside the point. Remember when I told you guys this whole Epstein file thing was either God exposing them and revealing the truth, or it was all a cover up for you to be focused on that so that you wouldn't be paying attention to what's actually happening. They've been talking.
Let me tell you all something. I just banned Jenny Marie. I just banned her from the chat because she's MAGA. She's MAGA. And let me tell you all something. I want you all to pay attention. I'm going to start the video back in a second. But here's what I need you all to pay attention to. We're going to start experiencing interferences. Okay? Because I told you all like a week or two ago, if you all remember me telling you this, put a 1 in the chat. I told you all that there are some right-wing people who are out here. They're trolling. They're out here. They're telling lies. And they're trying to make it seem as though we're crazy, as though we're giving wrong information. Okay? Remember I told you all this? They're talking about, oh, they're not eating the children. Y'all are just doing this for a clout chase and trying to talk about cannibalism like that doesn't exist. They ate people and they ate our ancestors. What are you talking about? Like that's crazy. They ate our ancestors. So there's going to be people like that are paid. Some of these people are paid. Some of them are bots. But they're trying to, just basically, muddy the waters. They're trying to make it look like we don't know what we're talking about. She's coming in here talking about Epstein didn't start Bitcoin. Yes, the hell he did. I just showed you the proof. Okay, with that all being said, at the end of the day, also now I banned her because she put in the chat something about these Epstein files are a distraction and this, that. Well, if they're a distraction, why the hell is she in my chat listening to it? Why is she on my channel listening to it? Because that's all I've been talking about for weeks. So I'm sorry, make that make sense. Okay, this is her first time in my chat. I've never seen that name before. But so if you don't believe and you don't believe what I'm saying, or you don't believe the Epstein files or the stuff is actually happening or whatever, well then why are you listening? She's in here to cause a distraction, so I blocked her. Okay, because y'all know I don't ever block people because they have a difference of opinion. I don't mind if you have a difference of opinion, but when I see that you're purposely trying to cause chaos, you're purposely trying to be disruptive, you're trying to go against stuff that I've already shown. You know what I'm saying? I sat there and showed you all the proof and evidence, and then she still says, well, wait a minute. Oh, he didn't do it. It's a myth. Google if Epstein created Bitcoin. Why the hell would I Google did Jeffrey Epstein create Bitcoin when I know from my research that a pseudonym was used? So I Googled the pseudonym because I know that's who it says invented it. But then I showed you that person was Epstein. It was him the whole time. Dismiss me with it. People who don't research can never tell a person who does for a living anything. That's what you can't do. Because people who don't do research are so stupid because they're the people that believe anything they're told. And that's what MAGA does. Most of MAGA, the ones who are still loyal to Trump, are so stupid, it's sad. Now, some of them woke up like Joe Rogan. Okay, some of them woke up like Joe Rogan because he was all in for Trump. But the ones that are still going down the hill and trying to save Trump and trying to act like this is all just a load of BS or whatever, like Trump's some whistleblower come to save everybody, and he's the one draining the swamp when he was at the very bottom of the swamp, in my opinion. You can't tell those people anything because they're fools. They're idiots. They don't do a bit of research. They just go off of emotion and feelings, and what they think. And who cares what an idiot thinks? I don't, right? So why do we want to listen to idiots? We don't. That's why I banned it from the chat. Now let's continue.
Talking about bringing peace to the Middle East, and not only peace to the Middle East, which we all know what that means. And if you don't know, anyways, they're also talking about bringing peace and prosperity to the world through their project called Agenda 2030. This is Agenda 2030. Y'all can read on it. Like I said, I'm not trying to say too much because I'm literally this close. And TikTok, this is all verifiable. This is all in the news. This is on everything. So don't be trying to ban people. But listen to what was just said in the press and what is going on.
Progress that we have made in the partnership sets us up well for the new world order.
Now that's Prime Minister Carney. You heard what he said, right? You heard what he said. Prime Minister Carney says Canada's partnership with China sets us up well for the new blank blank. That's what he said. Didn't I tell you all this? Didn't I tell you all this? Okay, let's continue.
Davos, we know there's the big housing speech. What else can we anticipate?
There's also going to be some look at the new world order that President Trump is creating.
So they're just
The new blank that who is created? President Trump. Didn't I tell y'all that he was the one who was going to usher it in? I told you all that. Okay, I told you all that. And yes, Adrian, they absolutely did eat the Egyptian mummies too, thinking that they could take on their power and their strength and the knowledge and wisdom that they had. Okay. Pink Flower says, Queen is one of the smartest creators on the tube. Bigger channels copy her work. Thank you, beloved. I really appreciate you. And absolutely they do. And you know what? When I call them out, then their people want to say I'm hating on them. How am I hating? They're the ones copying me. Thank you, beloved. Now let's continue. See, there it is right there. They said it out of their own mouths that Trump is the one bringing it in. You all knew this over a year ago, but let's continue.
discussing a new world order. Not my words. Y'all heard it in the video, not mine. And I don't know if anyone else is feeling this way, but I've just been feeling this strong sense that we are coming up on end times. And I've been saying it, but more than ever before in my entire life, I feel we're coming up on the next steps to that place. And I look at what is happening. I look at what is being exposed. I look at what God is doing. And I have this unshaking, eerie feeling in my body that is what is happening. And it is coming upon, I believe, very soon. 2030 is going to be the precipice for a huge change. And that's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to say too much, but all I can tell you is keep your eyes peeled. Stay alert. Do not be distracted by what's going on. If you're finally waking up, it's time to get right. Because I'm telling you, things are going to take a turn before it gets any better. Just be ready.
He said things are going to take a turn before it gets any better. Absolutely. I told you all it's going to get worse. It definitely is. It's going to get worse before it gets better. Now, listen, I have so many more receipts. I'm going to stop right there. I don't want to overload your brains. I have too much. I had to literally stop myself. I was sitting here sending all these receipts, and I'm like, wait a minute, you got to stop. You're doing too much. I'm always doing too much because I can't help myself. But I had to tell myself, stop. This is enough right here. Just show this for now. So with that all being said, the rest of this stuff, I'll show you all in the morning. But right now, we're going to get into Black history. Okay? We're going to get into Black history. I'm going to try not to do any research tonight because I really think my brain needs to rest. And I already have enough material for the next 2 days to do broadcast. I'm not even joking, probably even more than that. But hold on. Now I want to go to Black history. And that's another thing. I've been doing so much work that I forgot that I already had information for Black History Month that I wanted to share with you all. But then I went and pulled up some more. And I was like, wait a minute, I forgot all about this. Hold on. Okay, here we go right here. So what we're going to talk about today, or who would I'll say who we're going to talk about today in Black history. And the reason I want to talk about this woman is because she was so nefarious and so wickedly evil to her slaves. Okay? So I want to talk about this because of what they were doing on the island, in Jeffrey's residences in New York and different places. Okay? The torture they talked about. The torture they were talking about was some of this type of torture, in my opinion. So we're going to get into it. Hold on. Let me see which video I want to start at. We're going to be talking about Madame Lalaurie. And if any of you watched American Horror, you know that they had a whole thing about her on there, played by Catherine Bates, I do believe. Okay, so let me see here. Yeah, this is it right here. Okay, so we're going to get into it. I'm going to share my screen. Thank you to everybody saying you appreciate my hard work. I appreciate you all. Thank you. Okay, so here we go. Now make sure if you appreciate my hard work, you put a like, okay, that you hit the like button. All right, thanks in advance. All right, here we go.
7 dark facts about Madame Delphine Lalaurie that show the gruesome side of slavery. Number 1, they found a secret chamber in her attic where she would do horrible, horrible things to her enslaved people. On the morning of April 10th,
let me say Jeffrey Epstein had a dungeon. She would do horrible things to her slaves in the attic. Jeffrey Epstein had a whole dungeon where he was doing torturous and nefarious things, okay, to the people that he had enslaved, because that's what it was, the trafficking people. Remember, human trafficking and slavery, same thing.
1834, a fire started in the kitchen of the Lalaurie mansion, which was located in the French Quarter of New Orleans. And it's still there. This is an actual shot of that mansion. So the fire was actually started by her enslaved woman that was chained to the ground in the kitchen. And she
Correction, that was not an enslaved woman that was chained to the ground. It was a girl. She was like 13 or 14.
started the fire on purpose because she was just at her breaking point with what was going on up in the attic. So when smoke started billowing from the mansion, people outside started gathering around the mansion to see what was happening. And Madame Lalaurie, she was out front trying to keep people from going inside of her mansion and saying, oh, don't worry about it. Like, I don't care about my stuff. And they're like, there's people in there. Like, we need to go rescue them. And so a local judge just ignores her, and a couple other volunteers like bust into the house and make it to the kitchen, and they end up putting out the fire pretty easily. So the judge asked the enslaved woman like why she started the fire, and she said, go look up in the secret room up in the attic. So the judge and the volunteers, they make their way upstairs, and keep in mind this room, this little secret room, it was right next to where the enslaved people slept at night. So it was a extra layer of like mental torment. But they came to a door that led into a little secret chamber where 7 people were chained to the wall, and they all had gruesome wounds. They said it was very hard to look at them when they first saw them, but they got them out of there, and when they brought them outside, there was a crowd of people there for the fire. And once they saw the enslaved people, they became enraged and they wanted her blood. And we're going to talk about some of those wounds and what they found in that room in just a minute. So once word got out about what they had found, more people started showing up, and there was over 2,000 people outside of her mansion. And she barricaded herself within the mansion for a couple hours trying to figure out what to do. She thought it would just blow over because she was just rich and used to things like that, just like figuring themselves out, or she just pay people off. So she still had one person really on her side at that point, and that was her enslaved like assistant named Bastion, who was the only one that was like treated well, like fed well and dressed well. And that's basically because he was her spy and helped do all the dirty deeds, and they think that they were even lovers. So he jumps into action and whips around the carriage and gets her in, but the mob literally tries to rip her out of the carriage. So he starts whipping at the crowd, and he's able to get her out of there, and he takes her down to Lake Pontchartrain where a boat is waiting for her, and she escapes out of there. Now, some references say that she went to New York, but when she got there, people had already found out about her news, so she went on to France. Some say that she went back to Louisiana like only a couple years later after it died down. Now, we're going to talk about what was in that room and what she did to the people in that room, and even some incidents leading up to that. And we're going to do all that in part.
Okay, so I saw, there were several people doing stuff on Madame Delphine Lalaurie, but I felt like he did a very good job because he went in phases and he was giving very accurate information for the most part. He did have a few things that were not accurate. That was not a grown woman in that kitchen. That was a child. Okay, now I'm going to go to part 2.
Facts about Madame Delphine Lalaurie that showed a gruesome side of slavery, part 2. So after the fire broke out that morning and the volunteers rushed into her house to help save people, and they ended up discovering her secret room where she did horrible things to the enslaved people that she had. They were surprised and disgusted when they found 7 people chained to the wall inside that room, and all these
You said you mean the white people were enraged somehow. I doubt it. No, they actually were, because they had laws there in Louisiana. This was in Louisiana. They had laws about how you could or could not treat your slaves. Okay, and that's why she had to flee. She would not have left if the people had not been angry. They were very angry when they saw the sick things because, and of course, now here's the thing. She wasn't the only person of her skin tone doing these things. There were other white people doing these things too. She's the one that got caught. Okay. But the people who were not like that, they absolutely were upset. But now let's continue. Because now let's remember, all of them don't act like this. And we all should know that by now, at least. Like the priest who marched on Selma with Dr. King and who was killed by the Klan. Okay, like Alex Preddy, those type of people, they're not always down with nefarious things. So we can't put all of them in one category. To do so would be the equivalent of them calling all of us thugs and gangbangers. Let's continue.
Torture devices and the wounds that the people have were just so gruesome that it was hard to even look at them. I'm going to try to describe some of them without getting this video taken down, so let's do this. So first off, all of her enslaved people were in pretty bad shape except for one, which was her lover slash spy, and his name was Bastien. But Madame Delphine, she kind of got a sick pleasure out of only feeding her enslaved people just enough to survive, and then a lot of times that would make them make mistakes, that way she could then punish them. And then for the ones that she would take to her secret room, she would take out some of her grossest and sickest fantasies on them. And probably her husband too, who was a doctor, but they didn't get along very much. So towards the end, he wasn't at the house a lot, and that's why they think that she and Bastien were lovers. So
her husband was just as sick as she was, because by the fact that he was a doctor, he was performing all sorts of sick experimental surgeries on these people without the use of anesthesia. Okay. Mr. Bob the Cat says, didn't they make an American Horror Story on that? Yes, I did say that at the beginning. You may have come in late.
those who were chained to the wall in the secret room, they were covered head to toe in gashes from being whipped, and then their gashes had live maggots in them. And then several of the people had some of their arms and legs twisted in such bad positions that it's like one extreme pain. But apparently one of their experiments, they can't say whether for sure this is true or not, but definitely people had some twisted arms and legs. But they say that they were trying to create an experiment to create a human crab. And then for almost all of them, she took a sewing needle and made sure that their mouth was shut. But some of them, she took their tongue and attached it to their chin. One of the men had a large hole in his head, and they suspect that that was used to put a stick inside and kind of twirl things around. Some of them were missing some eyes, and they even tried to switch some of their you-know-what parts. And they found all of these tools, like they had these like neck braces that were really sharp and had spikes on them, so you can't like move your head any certain way, and they would force them to wear those. And apparently she was extra cruel to some of the women and children. And apparently the Creole women back then were all kind of extra cruel to their enslaved, and especially the women. These weren't the first.
Absolutely nefarious. Okay, now let's go to part 3. Likes up, everyone. Please don't forget to like and share. Thank you in advance. Did you hear the part where he said that she had basically sewed someone's tongue to their chin? Okay, this lady did some sick things. All right, very sick.
It's about Madame Delphine Lalaurie that showed a gruesome side of slavery, part 3. A couple of years before they found Madame Delphine's torture room, she had about 20 enslaved people die that she owned. And a lot of them were women and children. And that was a really high death rate for slavers because they had to pay for their enslaved people. So a lot of them didn't want them to die. But she was one of the richest people in the city, so she could afford to go through them. And it was more of a sick, morbid fascination for her. So some of this behavior may come from her past because her uncle died during a slave uprising. And then she learned at a young age how they punished the enslaved people that chose to rise up. So her family punished the enslaved people that rose up by giving them 100 to 200 lashes until their backs turned to jelly. And then after that, they would take handfuls of red pepper and salt and rub it on their wounds. And then they removed all of their ears. And then after that, sent them back to work. And there was also the fact that some of her family actually hooked up with some of the enslaved people and had babies with them and ended up marrying a few of them. So to her, she was like, oh, those people are below me, but I have to treat them normally because they're in the family now. And also they get some of my inheritance money. She may have had a hatred for enslaved people for that reason as well. And then there was a little girl on the roof. So apparently one of the neighbors one night heard yelling and saw from a distance, Madame Lorraine chasing a enslaved girl on the top floor. The little girl made it out to the roof and ended up jumping off when she was cornered, and she ended up dying. So the neighbor ended up reporting this, and the cops came out, and she ended up getting in a little bit of trouble, but she ended up hiring a really expensive lawyer. And basically, she was made to sell her enslaved people, but she sold them to a family member and then bought them back so that she could torture them more. And it's also worth noting that her second husband also weirdly disappeared. And then she married a doctor who was her third husband, and he's the one that apparently did some really messed up experiments in that secret room. Like taking someone's hand and like attaching it to their stomach and just really weird and mess up things like that. And they may have been experimenting trying to make a human crab by breaking and resetting different bones and stuff like that. Really messed up and gross stuff. Now, they weren't the only ones doing this type of stuff for sure, and I'll give you guys some more examples in part 4.
Hey, let's go to part 4. This is all nefarious. This is absolutely sick.
Justice comment that I got and a few others like it. Obviously, I think that all of slavery is gruesome and that it's horrible, but I'm being more specific about a few cases that were a little more extreme. So what I didn't know until I did research for this video is that there was actually different laws in each state and city for slavery. Some of those laws included that they couldn't do really horrible things like they were doing at this mansion to enslaved people. And one of those cities specifically was New Orleans, and they had some pretty specific laws that enslaved people can't be like mistreated too much. Like it's still really messed up, but what she was doing was definitely breaking the law, and that's why she didn't want people going in her mansion whenever the fire broke out. And those laws were also the reason why she got in trouble when the girl jumped from the roof when she was whipping her. She ended up having to sell all of her enslaved people, but she secretly sold them to a family member and then got them back, like snuck them back to the mansion and continued to torture them. A lot of the slave owners weren't as rich as Madame Delphine. She could afford to do that and go through her enslaved people versus other ones, they needed them to make money. And so they definitely were very abusive, but they wanted them to be in working condition. And it's just really crazy just describing people like that. And I'm Native American mixed with African and English as well. So this has definitely affected my history as well. Now, she definitely wasn't the only one. There was a slaver in Louisiana that nailed an enslaved man's private area to a post and began to whip him. And there was this other slave owner that would do some really messed up things to punish his enslaved people. Like,
now listen to that. They said she nailed his private to a post or something and then started to beat him, to whip him. Can you imagine? So if she did something like that, and I've read that before too, and if she did something like that, well, think about the least move that he would make would likely rip it. That's why she did that. And think of someone trying to hold still as they're being beaten across their back with their private nailed to something. Oh my God, I cannot imagine the horror of it all. I mean, who does this? Now, this woman was no demon. That's just the type of person she was. So, absolutely, there are wicked, evil, nefarious, diabolical, depraved people that act that way without the work of demons even being needed. But just think about someone like her after she's been given even more power from demons that she's conjured up. Okay, I want you all to pay attention because that's what we're talking about when we're talking about these Epstein files. Let's continue.
taking a pig's head, putting nails all inside of it, and then putting it on top of their head and then rolling them down a hill. And I'm pretty sure you can imagine what would happen to that person. It's really messed up. So according to some accounts from survivors, Madame Delphine would wake up in the morning, go straight to the secret torture room, and spend like an hour in there doing her dirty deeds, go take a shower, and then just go about her day. And keep in mind, she's one of the richest people in New Orleans at the time. So she's constantly having dinner parties, having people over, and little do they know, right above their heads is a secret room of just horribleness. Like, imagine how fake of a person she really is, just to be able to go about acting like nothing's happening while that room is up above everyone. And if you guys want to
Okay, so we're going to go to the next part. Now, Lieutenant Muxwa, I don't know how to say your name. I'm just going to call you Mosas because that's the last part of it. Says these people do this and we're supposed to believe they were outraged too. I mean, you can believe whatever you want. I'm not telling you what to believe, but please stop asking me the same thing over and over because I just told you and you can look it up for yourself. It's Google. Google is so easy. Google it. Now, I'm not starting to wonder if you're not just being a troll and trying to be disruptive. But if you continue arguing and bickering in the chat, then you're going to be put in time out. And after that, if you continue, you already know what's next. The bottom line is they had laws for this, and all white people are not the same. All white people are not evil. Have you not ever known of a nice white person in your life? I'm sorry if you haven't. Okay? But they're all not the same. And like I said, to categorize all white people as being nefarious would be the same as them categorizing all of us as thugs. Okay? All of us are not thugs. All of us are not out here being murderers and killers and selling illegal substances. Okay, well, all of them are not Klansmen and neo-Yazis and devils. That's just what it is. Okay? Now let's continue. I don't like repeating myself, especially when I'm trying to get information out. All right. I know some very good white people. I've had one of them on my show. His name is Pastor Dana Stevens. Okay. So please. Now, with that all being said, let's go to the next clip. I do believe we're on part 5. And listen, I'm not telling any of you what to believe. You can believe whatever you want. You can disagree. You don't ever have to agree with me. That's what I always say. And also for the moderators, I don't want you to kick anybody out, time them out or anything because they disagree. But if people are being problematic in the chat, such as arguing, calling people names, going back and forth, after you warn them, the next step is to time them out for 3 minutes. Now, with that all being said, can I continue? I don't have time to keep interrupting myself to scold grown people as though they were my children. Okay, now, that all being said, likes up, everyone, please like and share.
in a secret torture room inside of Madame Lalaray's mansion, an angry mob of over 2,000 people showed up outside of her house. She ended up making a quick escape down to Lake Pontchartrain and escaped by boat, but afterwards the mob went inside her mansion and destroyed everything. And then it stayed abandoned for the next couple years, but neighbors said for the next few weeks and even months after that they would hear these weird moans and screams and the sounds of chains dragging, but no one was there. The mansion stayed empty until 1837 when a dude named Charles Caffin bought it and renovated it with a plan to lease out the rooms. But according to Charles, no one really wanted to stay there because the moans, screams, and sounds of chains continued. And not only that, he said that he felt just really sick and just really bad vibes when he was up on the top floor. So that actually didn't work out for him and he sold it. And a couple other people ended up trying to do the same thing, but only one of the owners said that he never heard anything. And then in 2006, the actor Nicolas Cage actually bought the mansion for $3.5 million. And apparently he only stayed one night in it because he heard some crazy sounds as well. He wasn't able to keep it for long because he eventually had to file for foreclosure and ended up losing the property. But what do you think? Do you think it's actually haunted from the enslaved people of the past, or maybe Madame Lalaray herself? Or do you think it's all just made?
Of course it's haunted because energy is transferable. Pay attention, people. If you don't follow the spiritual channel, you may not understand. At the end of the day, we all learned in 10th grade, I think it was around that time, when we were taught how energy is neither created nor destroyed. It's just simply transferred from one thing to another. So with that all being said, think about all of the pain and trauma that was caused, the death and the dark things that were done there, that were inflicted upon these people. Of course, that energy is still there. Now, some people would say those are ghosts or whatever you want to call it, but the bottom line is that energy, that dark energy, it's like a poltergeist. Okay, energy, specifically that negative energy, can take on like a physical form. This is why sometimes people say they saw dark shadows. That's nothing but a bunch of negative energy. There was a story that I read years ago about a woman who moved into a house. Long story short, a serial killer had lived there. She started seeing like this dark, shadowy figure, paranormal things were happening. And then when people came to investigate, well, they basically told her it was a poltergeist. It's the fact that the person was there, was a serial killer. They had this dark, nefarious, wicked energy. And when they left that energy behind, because that's what happens. Okay, that's exactly what happens. And this is why I always tell people, be careful of who you lend your energy to. And before you go to bed at night, you may want to call your energy back into you. And I mean your positive energy. Okay, free the negative energy. But also, because these things can be very disruptive. Okay, so now let's go to this next clip and then we're going to be out of here. Okay, I'm going to share my screen. I'll do the lifelines tomorrow morning. Okay, I'm tired at this point.
Bred her slaves for skin tone and loyalty. The Lady of New Orleans, Louisiana's eugenics, 1850. Madame Lalaurie, one of the most harsh and evil women in Louisiana's history. What I'm about to show you represents 25 years of careful selection and breeding. My late husband thought me mad at first. This is Black AF history. This talks about the unwhitewashed story of America, like Madame Lalaurie, and the stories that they take out of the history books in schools. I'll link it below. Make sure to grab it while it's on sale. Madame Lalaurie produced a key from her pocket. This is my nursery, she explained, unlocking the door, where the future of my experiments takes its first breath. The interior was unexpectedly bright and clean, resembling a hospital. Several women, all with varying shades of light brown skin, cared for infants in wooden cradles. There was a woman who was a human caterpillar in some sort of chair. She was bound and tied and gagged, her skin oozing because of chemical alterations done by this woman, Madame Lalaurie.
Now I want you all to think about that. This lady was just like Epstein. Okay, this lady, Epstein was just like this lady. She crossbred her slaves, okay, for different types of skin tone or whatever she wanted. Epstein, what was he doing? He was trying to clone people. He talks about cloning people. He talked about having all of these babies with his DNA. He wanted to have his DNA just spread all throughout the world. So these are the sick things these devils do. Okay. And so she was very much, the two of them were very much alike, in my opinion. Okay. So with that all being said, I'm going to conclude this broadcast. There is some other juicy stuff, which I'll get in tomorrow. Like I told you all, I'll be back tomorrow morning for your morning wake up call. Until then, I hope you all enjoy the rest of this beautiful day. Each one teach one. That's how we grow and thrive. Do something productive, constructive, but never destructive. And always remember, beloveds, to keep the Most High first in your lives. And until next time, I will talk to you all again soon. Peace.
Hey, yo, Nick, hit him with that flavor.
Sold all in my skin, God all in my blood. Kings all in my circle, you touch one of mine and you're done. They show no love for the queen, why you hating on me? Is it cause I'm free and I got Malcolm X in my jeans? I got dreams like...
Hold up. Say what now? There's been a shooting at Mar-a-Lago. Let me see real quick. Let me see what's going on here, beloveds. Thank you for that information also. Thank you. Okay, here it is right here. Armed man shot and killed after entering perimeter around Trump's Florida home. That's interesting. Let me see if I can go to a video news report. Okay, here it is right here. Investigators identify armed intruder. This is from like 2 hours ago. Okay, let me just pull this up. Let me pull this up. Hold on. Okay, I'm going to share my screen.
Had made 1:30 this morning, the security detail detected that a individual had made his way into the inner perimeter of Mar-a-Lago. A deputy and 2 Secret Service agents on the detail went to that area to investigate. They confronted a white male that was carrying a gas can and a shotgun. He was ordered to drop those 2 pieces of equipment that he had with him, at which time he put down the gas can, raised the shotgun to a shooting position. At that point in time, the deputy and the 2 Secret Service agents fired their weapons and neutralized the threat. He is deceased at the scene.
At this time, no law enforcement personnel were injured during the incident. We want to be clear, the President of the United States was not in the state of Florida. And this remains an active investigation by the FBI.
Okay, so the next broadcast, I'll give you all an update and more information on that. As for now, I'm going to conclude the broadcast. I'm not going to play the rest of the song. I'm out of here, okay? Love you all to life and enjoy the rest of this day. Peace.